Hello, friends. Welcome to Great People Interview Series once again. And are you thinking of using AI in your business? Or do you think, well, wherever I work, that business is definitely going to use AI today or tomorrow? So, do you want to prepare yourself for that? Do you want to know how do I go about this? And can I get some advice from the expert in inclusion of AI into your business? Well, we have David Lane here. David, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Nice for having me on the call. Looking forward to having a chat. I can chat for a long time about AI, so looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Well, you have been a computer science graduate, so technology has been part of your journey all along. And so, before we dive into um, the subject for today,
Mm.
um, I just wanted to get a feel of your journey and how do you see the evolution of AI? Is it happened, over recent years? Or if not, what's your view?
Yeah, no, sure. So obviously, my background is, like you said, I did a computer science and artificial intelligence degree 21 years ago now. So a fair time ago. And I think a lot of people think that AI only happened a few years ago with the explosion of ChatGPT, etc. But as a discipline, it's really been around since sort of the 40s and the 50s, actually 1940s, 1950s, and sort of been peaks and troughs of sort of how it's worked since then. And actually, I did a LinkedIn post about it sort of a week or two ago about a brief history of the summary of the history of AI, because I think it's sort of fascinating. Um, but I think it's only really been in the last 3 years or so where it's really got sort of this traction and it's sort of everywhere sort of now. And there's reasons for that, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, it's been really interesting now to see this massive explosion and where we are with it now.
Fantastic. Friends, David is the CEO founder of Fatfish Digital. It's a UK based software and AI consultancy with huge experience in various sectors, including health tech and many other industries. Um, so let's try to see what we can uncover today with his experience and his expertise. So, to begin with, David, would you like to explain what your business does?
Yeah, sure. So I think at Fatfish, we sort of like to sort of call ourselves sort of technology orchestrators. So we'll work with a company, either a smaller business that maybe doesn't have a tech team, or maybe a sort of a bigger enterprise company that needs some specialist support, and we'll go in, help to really understand the problem or the business problem that they're trying to solve, and then sort of see what bits of technology need to be pieced sort of together. Because I think the software development world now is moved from actually writing all the code yourself to actually how do you get all of these digital components and services to orchestrate and work together. So we work with a business to do that. Maybe build out the product, help them go to market, launch, and sort of scale their business. Um, AI has become more and more of a factor of one of those things in our toolbox, of part of those orchestrations. And like I said, a lot of our work is in sort of what we call regulated space, health tech in particular, but then some insure tech and fintech, etc., and stuff as well.
Wow, fantastic. So you are really the technology enabler for those who do not really have the top tech lead
Mm.
talent. Um, and so you kind of help them shape their technology and then, if required, develop and deliver for them. Or you would just do the blueprint and then let them run with it.
Exactly. It depends on sort of how we work. So like I said, some teams, maybe don't companies don't have anything, so we'll go in and do the whole everything within, end to end. Some might have some resource, so we'll help them do the blueprint, etc. So I think what we find is, you know, digital space and digital technologies are moving so quickly sometimes it's hard to have a specialist in those sort of particular areas, and particularly AI as well. Actually, where we can go into a business, and that's our specialism, maybe augment and sort of their teams that they've already got. I think is sort of really sort of powerful what we offer.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to take a different perspective here. And we all know AI is inevitable, it's going to be there, but let's take it with a pinch of salt and try and understand, um, is AI really required in all the cases? And in other words, when CEOs and CTOs are making that decision of
Mhm.
inclusion of AI into their business, what are those factors that they need to consider? So, where to include AI, where not to include AI?
Yes, and that's a really interesting point, actually. And I think where I see a lot of parallels. So I had a previous sort of company that I had founded, and we were very early to the mobile app space. And I don't know if you remember, sort of everyone said, "I need a mobile app. I need a mobile app." And I think
Yeah,
it's sort of a similar parallels to that, where everyone says, "I need AI. I need AI." And when I'm on the tube in sort of London, every poster seems to be sort of powered by AI, powered by AI.
yeah,
And I think it's sort of a good, it's probably good to put into your fundraising deck or your pitch decks as well. So yeah, there is definitely that side, and I think sort of Brian, sort of what sort of considerations. I think at Fatfish we just see it as like I said, one tool in the toolbox of what can be used, and in some set cases where it's there's no need for AI, then we don't ever go into a business and say you must have AI. It's like, okay, if that fits into your solution in an efficient, productive way, then great. But if it doesn't, equally fine. Um, I think it's how do you integrate AI into your sort of solution or sort of business? It really depends on sort of on a business by business sort of use case, and AI can be very, very useful. It has also its challenges, and I'm sure we'll sort of come on to that. I think in a lot of cases, what we find is it's testing stuff. Actually, don't sort of shun AI, but I think you also need to test it and test. Actually, okay, here's some really quick ways I can sort of test something out. Actually, do I see some results on that? Great. If not, then sort of move on to sort of the next thing. I think it's sort of you just got to go in and test and see what's worked, because there are some use cases in terms of content creation is a really prime example of that, sort of marketing, etc. And there are challenges in these, but then there's some other use cases where people are sort of saying actually it's going to replace this whole job, and actually trying to get AI to do stuff in the right way, actually ends up adding more time to the role and the process than removing it.
wow. So, can we take any of the examples of your work where you had to advise um, inclusion of AI and how it actually helped the business um, in improving? So, any sort of example that you can give?
So I think a quite sort of, and I think really what you see a lot of the flashy sort of uses of AI, like
Yeah,
generating like the Google sort of video generation and generating videos, and those
yeah,
are all great and they get the headlines. But I actually think some sort of I don't want to say boring because that's sort of probably just, but actually sort of some of the more trivial use cases are where actually I see a lot of benefit. So, for example, we were working with a client that had several hundred policy documents, and there'd been a recent change in some guidance around some of the policies that meant that someone would have to go in and update all of these policy or review and update all these policy documents. So we used an AI process that would, so all these policy documents were in Word format, the AI would look at all the Word files in the context of the recent changes around the guidance, update them where needed, and output an updated Word file with change markups, so someone could quickly go through and see all the changes, accept and reject them. And
wow.
that's a process that would have taken probably days and days was done in sort of hours.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, it's not a big fancy sort of use case, but I think that's a really prime example of where AI could be
It's
used.
real and it's a
Yeah.
game changer because I
Yeah.
think it's not as fancy as you rightly said, but yeah, it's a real case. And did you come across any of the examples where you had to advise business not to use AI in certain software that they are developing?
So I think we see some areas where a lot of the sort of some of the AI problems, and we might delve into these a bit sort of later, is actually how do you get some of the data that this AI sort of needs to work with, and in some cases the data is in sort of different sort of convoluted sort of places, etc. And I think that's going to be a big challenge for AI longer term. Is that how does AI systems work with a lot of other legacy systems
Yeah,
as well? But I think we sometimes find that people think sort of AI is sort of a solvable problem for everything, and you can just sort of press a button, it can just go out and find stuff. And it's sort of, yes, we could, write an AI agent to go out and get all that data from that web portal. But you look at it and think that might take, I'm making up the some, 300 hours of time of developer time to do it. But over the year, it only costs you 50 hours. So actually, the trade off doesn't really make sort of sense. And there are, how you measure the ROI on AI is not just purely a timepiece. It's, it's a reliability, it's an accuracy, it's a quality. But there's some cases where you can spend so much more time getting the AI to work, you sort of lose track of actually I was trying to streamline a process that only took me 10 minutes a month. So I think that's where you sort of have to get that balance.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's so crucial.
Yeah.
What you are empowering businesses with technology, if I can put it that way.
Mm.
What are the challenges you see with your customers or acquiring new customers?
So I guess with sort of the economy at the sort of the moment, I think budgets is always a sort of
Yeah,
a tricky issue, sort of finding sort of budget sort of particular projects. I think people also can be sort of a bit cautious in terms of actually what's really going to be the ROI of sort of this project as well. I think particularly from the AI side, um, I think for a lot of people, sort of stakeholders or people in any sort of sale of businesses, I feel like I have to use AI. I'm seeing it everywhere, but sort of almost like it's a bit sort of you're blinded by, okay, what do I even need to do with this? It's sort of such a complex sort
yeah,
of scenario. And then obviously then you get into some of the more sort of fine-grained issues with sort of AI, like I touched upon. How does it how do I make sure it's doing the right thing? How do I interact, get it incorporated with all our other systems? So there's a lot of challenges of getting all this stuff working right. And again, some things will probably cover like security, compliance. Your staff members are using AI, but if you haven't got some clear guidance and policy with your business, how are people doing it all in the same way and a secure way and the right way of doing things?
wow, fantastic. Well, I think what you have done so far is really remarkable. You are helping businesses in number of ways and number of services that you provide. um, what's your growth plan for next 1 to say 3 to 5 years? Where you want to grow, and what are your plans?
So yeah, so I think they're really exciting. So I think we've got probably most companies said, but I think we've got some really great, so exciting growth plans over the next sort of 12 months, 18 months. So I think that's sort of two sides to that. So the first side is I think actually supporting businesses around sort of this sort of tech enablement, tech on orchestration. I think is just going to get bigger and bigger, and so actually growing our team and growing our delivery of that. And it's really interesting because I think as you know tools and services seem to have got more automated and easier to use. Actually, I find the challenge is of what the need for someone like us is get harder because there's so much choice out there. There's so many things out there. The space is moving so quickly. Actually, us being able to go in and guide people through all that noise has actually got more need than less need, which is great for us and sort of interesting to see. I think the other side of that, which is really exciting for us, is you know at the moment we're sort of an agency consultancy based business. We're now starting to sort of build out some products within our sort of business as well.
Wow.
So that's coming off the back of, we've cautiously gone into that. I don't think we wanted to sit in a room and say, okay, we're going to go in and sit in a room and not come out until we've got the next big product. I think what we've seen is actually we've been working with a number of clients, and we're seeing sort of common themes of what clients want.
Yep.
And so actually starting to productize that. I think probably Q1 next year, we'll start to roll some of that out. I think where we see that though is sort of for phase one, it will be a product with consultancy support, because I think there's
Yep.
still very much a need for someone to be sort of guided through some of these challenges, some of the tools, and some of the services as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, but then for your own development, you will probably have to invest. It could be just your existing bandwidth right now, which is fine.
Mm.
But then as you launch the products, I think it starts eating up more into the time, and then it
Yeah.
actually becomes an investment. So which is
Mm.
fantastic. So the road you're taking is quite bold decision, I should say, because when you're talking about your own product, I think you are investing, but it also shows that, how confident you are with what you're doing. So I think
Yeah.
it kind of demonstrates to yourselves as well as to your customers, right? If I'm putting in money into doing this, that means I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like I said, sort of, and I think that's maybe a good thing for sort of everyone is actually we're looking to sort of, we cautiously actually we really identified opportunities to sort of build out the product. And I think what we want to do is sort of get out there, iterate, test quickly, get it into customers' hands, and iterate on that feedback. I don't think it's a good idea for anyone to, actually let's work on a product for 6 or 12 months behind closed doors and then sort of get customer feedback. And I know that
Yeah,
sort of seems obvious, but it can be quite, you can be, I've seen people can fall into that trap quite easily.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that was amazing conversation, David, and I'm sure this is definitely going to help a lot of people
Mm.
who are listening to this, who are either trying to build their own systems, maybe they need your help. Um,
Mm.
Maybe those who would probably think of doing something in future, they would have some advice as well to remember and not get carried away with any of the
Yeah.
bubbles that come out. AI is now, what next? But I think we have to always evaluate, does it make business sense, or are we just doing it because
Mm.
we want that tick in the box? um,
Yeah,
so thank you very
exactly
much
that.
for your time, David. It was really amazing.
Brilliant. I appreciate your time. It was great to chat. Thank you.
Cheers.